Hi class, I'm here to talk about slopes for this lesson. This goes along with homework 20, and this is the last assignment for this first week. So slope is the point of this lesson. Slope is a quant description. That means a number that describes how steep the line is, either as an incline or as a decline. Going up or going down. When we read a graph, by the way, we read it as if it's moving from left to right. So this first line here on the left is a positive slope because it's moving up. And the second line here on the right, this one is a negative slope because it is moving downwards. And the number that we're going to give this first one, when I look at it, every time I move up 2 steps, I go over 1, up 2, over 1, and so this ends up having a slope of 2 over 1, or 2 in this case, because we're going up 2 and over 1, and this one over here we're going down 2 and then right 3, and so that's down 2, right 3, and that's a slope of negative 2/3. Horizontal and vertical lines, as always, are a little weird. The horizontal lines are going to have slope 0 because they aren't going up or down at all, so that's a slope of 0. And these vertical lines over here, those are going to have an undefined slope. You can think of it as they're infinitely steep. So here's a typical kind of questions. Graph this equation using one of the techniques from before and then talk about the slope. Is it positive? Is it negative? Or whatnot? So when it's in standard form like this is, I like to use my x and y intercepts and y intercept. And so my x-intercept, 2x plus 4 times 0 equals 8. 2x equals 8. X equals 4. So I'm going to write that as 4, 0, and I'm going to put that dot right there. And the y-intercept is 2 times 0 plus 4y equals 8. 4y equals 8. Divide by 4, divide by 4. And again, this is a y-intercept, so this is the point 0, 2. And if we go ahead and connect those, that line has a negative slope. It's moving in a downward direction, so it's negative slope. And in fact, if you want to put a number to it, if you look at it, I'm going down 2 steps and right 4 steps. Down 2 steps and right 4 steps. So we would say the slope is negative 1/2 in this example. In general, some of the terms you might hear, you might recall them from before. Sometimes the slope is called the rise versus the run. How far have you gone down and then over? So this is the same example that we had before, and we can see that what we've done is we go down 2 and right 4 as we move like from there and then across, and so that is as a slope negative 2 over 4. And in fact, you'll see this used as the symbol. We want to reduce that, so that's negative 1/2. That would be the slope. So in your homework, the slope is going to be referred to by an m. We'll get into that a little bit more in the next lesson. So here are some examples. I've graphed some lines so I can see a picture of what this is going. This one that's here on the left, it is moving in an upward direction. So one thing I know for sure is that the slope is positive. And over here in the right, I can see that it's going downward, so I can say that the slope is negative. Now, how do we find the exact point? If we've drawn a good graph, and that's sort of the if. You've seen I've drawn some not so great graphs. If I've drawn a graph that's pretty good, I can actually count out kind of what I'm doing in terms of up and over. So this looks like what I'm doing is I'm going through this point here and this point here. If you did a table of values, x and y, when I plug in 0 to this equation, I get 5. Y equals 5 times 0 plus 1. So I get 0, 1. So that's that point on the graph. And that second point, when I plug in 1, y equals 5, 1 plus 1, I get 6. And so that's that second point. And so it looks like what I'm doing is I'm going up 5 steps and over 1 step. So the slope is 5 over 1, which is just 5. And in your online homework, if it asks you to put an integer, you'll put the 5, not the 5 over 1. In the second one here, again, if you've drawn it really carefully, maybe you can see exactly what those points are. And if you can't, then we're going to use like a table of values, x and y. So if I plug in 0, I get negative 1/4 times 0 minus 2. So y equals minus 2. And that's that point I see right there. And remember, this one has a fraction, so I don't want to plug in something like 1. I want to plug in something like 4 that I hope is going to give me a nicer calculation. So y equals negative 1/4 times 4 minus 2. Negative 1 minus 2, which is negative 3. And so again, if I've drawn this good, I should see the point there at negative 3. And so how do I walk from one to the other? It looks like I go down 1 step and over 4 steps. So that's down 1 and over 4. And that is my slope. If you're sitting there going, gosh, that number 5 and that number negative 1/4, is that a coincidence? That's not, and that's sort of the main point of homework 21, is that connection between the equation and these factors that come out. If all we have is points and we want to use a formula, now I'll be honest with you, formulas aren't great for everyone. We're going to use this formula. This is subtracting the y's to figure out the y's and subtracting the x's to figure out the x's. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and do this example. That formula said I take the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. Doesn't really matter which one is the first and the second point as long as you keep them in order. So whichever point you start with for the x's, you have to start with for the y's. So the second y minus the first y, this is the second y, this is the first y, over the second x minus the first x. Here's the second x, here's the first x. And this is negative 7 over negative 3, which is a positive 7/3. Two negatives make a positive. Now I'm going to check this visually because some of us are more visual learners. I'm going to go 2, 4, and then I'm going to go negative 1, negative 3. And I can see that as I move from one point to the other, I am going up, so I am expecting a positive slope. And I'm just going to walk my way there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps up. And then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 steps over. So it is 7 over 3. Any questions? Go ahead and email me. Have a nice day.